The flights could be in as little as 8 hours. So that's amazing. Welcome back to the Trini Will Travel. I'm Keisha, Trini, currently living in Milan. If you're interested in all things travel, especially from a Caribbean perspective, then go ahead and subscribe. But for today, we're just going to get into some quick travel updates. I previously made a video on the ETIAS, which is an electronic authorization for entry into the Schengen area, which is a group of countries in the European Union. This was supposed to be implemented in 2025, being this year. However, for another year, it's being pushed back again. So if you have plans to travel to Europe this year, you do not need to apply for the ETIAS. However, if you're traveling to London and you're from Trinidad and Tobago, not just London, but to the UK, you need to apply for a visa, because previously we could have visited without needing a visa and then we needed to apply for the electronic authorization, but now we need to apply for a full visa, and that visa is like basically, let's call it £120 per entry. So that's something to take into consideration. Also, speaking in terms of restrictions into countries, then we also have the US. There's a lot going on right now in the US. Things are very, uncertain. I don't know. But this is not legit as yet. But there were some comments about Caribbean countries using Cuban nurses and doctors. And as we know, the political situation between the US and Cuba. So they're basically saying if you're affiliated with Cuba, we don't want no affiliation with you. So there were talks, rumors, like rejecting visas for certain Caribbean countries, who continue to employ Cuban nurses and doctors. So of course, Trinidad and Tobago is one of those countries who could apply for a visa to go to the US. However, they may reject it. I don't know how that would work, but okay. That being said, what I just want to gauge the thoughts on traveling to the US in 2025, between the periods 2025 to 2029. What are your thoughts on traveling to the US? Are you interested in traveling? Did you have plans to travel? Did you change your mind in traveling there? I know for me, it's no thank you. I didn't have any plans to, but now it's definitely no grazie. But Caribbean Airlines, however, are starting increased flights to Miami from sometime in June the 19th. They're increasing the amount of flights they have to Miami. Now, would anyone be taking advantage of that? Maybe, because I know personally from Trinidad and Tobago, we travel to the US, one, to visit family, two, for shopping. Like Miami, shopping, Trinidad, Miami, and shopping is like this. New York, maybe more so for visiting family, etc. But that's kind of like the extent of it. Now, I would say there's a video that I was supposed to make for a while now, which is talking about a trip that we took to California, and y'all, the West Coast is where it's at. That's the first time I went to the US, and actually it was like a vacation. We took a road trip. It was really good. So I don't know. But also, back to the first topic, based on your thoughts, I am aware of persons who had plans to travel to the US, and now it's not the case anymore. So for example, I'm really interested in seeing how this affects tourism to the US, because we're already hearing people saying that they're not going to go. However, in the next 4 years, there are two major events that are happening in the US. Next year is going to be the World Cup, and I know of some persons who they were planning to go to the World Cup and travel through the US. However, they have basically taken the US out of the itinerary, because the World Cup is going to be in Canada, US, and Mexico. So basically, they've taken the US out of the itinerary. And then there's the Olympics that's going to be in 2028, on the West Coast. So maybe it should be a little more hopeful. But yeah, if people are not interested in going to the US, what is going to happen for these games? Because I would assume that countries make the investment to have the games within their territory with the hope that it drives some sort of tourism directly during the games as well as after the games, because people get introduced to the city and they want to explore. They want to see it for themselves. But with this tension, like, how does that work? Are you going to say we're not doing the games in our country anymore? I'm interested to see the turnout for these events and how that occurs, but that's for another time. Anyway, still on the Caribbean. So Caribbean Airlines also recently posted on their social media all the Caribbean islands that currently have the online immigration forms, the customs immigration forms. And I'm annoyed because I've been rolling my eyes at this for how many years? I'm like, why? Why am I still having to look? Well, I do travel with a pen, but why do I have to still be looking for a pen, lending people a pen on a plane, coming into Trinidad? Like, why are we still filling out paper forms on arrival? But anyway, so the countries that we have, Caribbean countries that have the online customs forms, there's Antigua, Bahamas, Barbados, Curacao, Dominica, Guyana, Jamaica, St. Kitts, St. Lucia, St. Martin, Suriname, and Tortola. And Trinidad should be on that list because I think that we were supposed to implement it about 4 years ago. They got the machines and the kiosks and everything, and I don't know what happened. It never materialized. But on to better news. I also just saw that one of the things that sparked me to make this video, though the little updates here and there, I think this one was very exciting. This is the most exciting news. A bilateral air services agreement has been signed between, our public transport minister of Trinidad and Tobago, as well as the minister for that department in Nigeria, signed this agreement, basically opening air travel between the two countries. Y'all, I'm saying this like if I'm in Trinidad right now, but I think that is a really big step. So basically it opens, it enables the direct flights between the two countries. So if you look at flights to try to get to Africa now, of course, well, not of course, but there are no direct flights. So more than likely pass through the US, pass through Europe, and probably still have to make 1 or 2 stops to get to the continent. However, this is just the starting stone. And the good news, it's the first bilateral agreement that has been signed between Trinidad and Tobago and any African state. So yes, it's a great stepping stone. And now there's the possibility, now they're still looking for airlines or carriers to service the route. So it's not something that it's going to start, like flights are going to start tomorrow or next month, but it's the first step. So they need to find carriers. Of course, they'll need to make sure that it will be like some sort of profitable route for them to even be doing it in the first place. But I think they're looking at Trinidad and Tobago as a hub. So travel from other Caribbean islands, maybe even persons traveling outside of the region, they may pass through the region to get to the continent to go back. So it opens travel for us, of course, in the region, for Trinidad and Tobago, as well as for us in the region. It opens a lot of possibilities. The thing is, this is a great step, but the funny thing is that travel in Africa is also the struggle that we have here in the Caribbean. Like, it's much cheaper for us to travel to the US than it is for us to travel within the region. And it's the same thing in Africa. It is very, very expensive to travel between the countries in Africa. If you're thinking you're going to fly to Nigeria and you're going to go to South Africa, you're going to go to Kenya, like, it's not as simple as we think it is. Well, it's not as affordable as it should be. So yeah, something to look out for. But anyway, that is some exciting news, and I'm interested to see which carrier would be the one that will do the route, because as we know, Air Peace, a Nigerian airline, is the majority stakeholder in LIAT 2020. How it is that it's a joint venture. So Airpeace Caribbean is a subsidiary of Airpeace Nigeria, and the Airpeace Caribbean is the majority stakeholder in LIAT 2020. So Airpeace is the majority stakeholder. But anyway, it's interesting that we've also signed this agreement with Nigeria. So basically, I think it opens up travel in a really good way. So we have direct flights between Nigeria and Trinidad. Did I say the time frame? The flights could be in as little as 8 hours. So that's amazing. Almost forgot. Connect Caribbean. Yeah, because we want to travel the Caribbean, right? We want to travel the Caribbean first and foremost. Connect Caribbean. Update. So they wanted Connect Caribbean. This is supposed to be an inter-island ferry for travel between the it's supposed to be an affordable way to travel the Caribbean. It's gonna take, from what I've seen, it's gonna take the model of like LIAT, so it's like one country to the next. So basically, if you want to go to Antigua from Trinidad, you probably have to stop in Barbados, you probably have to stop in St. Lucia, you probably have to stop in Dominica, and then you're gonna get to Antigua. But anyway, so the expected launch, when they said they wanted to launch, was in August 2024. We are now in April 2025. The last report, they said that they wanted to launch like in the first quarter of 2025. However, we're in April and nothing as yet. So I'm really interested to see how this goes. I also signed up to be like notified when they have any information. I haven't gotten any emails, so this is just from me checking the website to see what they have to say. So no updates from that front as yet, so that's unfortunate. But anyway, I hope that the video was informative, and if you have anything to add, drop a comment down below, and safe travels until next time. Ciao.